As we grew up watching cartoons and witnessed the birth of CG movies, animation has always been a captivating art. Since then, the sheer number of animation techniques and styles has become so varied and diverse, especially where video games are concerned. So, let's take a look at 15 video games with some of the best animation out there.
Fine. My turn.
Mortal Kombat 11. Despite how motion capture is utilized when quicker attacks start flying, there's no denying how good the overall animation work is here. Facial expressions are on point throughout, comparing favorably to Injustice 2. Even in terms of attack animations, seeing each character's unique stances and abilities flowing into one another, creating a gorgeous rhythm during fights, is mesmerizing. That's even with some of the more exaggerated actions taking place with fatal blows and fatalities. Gris. Nomada Studios' Gris is an achievement, mixing a variety of frame rates and aesthetics into one stunning platformer. The backgrounds and levels are great, but seeing it all in motion is something else. Whether it's the giant bird that shifts between ink and solid form, the protagonist's dress naturally reacting to different conditions, or some of the cutely animated denizens, Gris is one of the most artistically accomplished games currently available. CUPHEAD. On the other hand, we have Studio MDHR's CUPHEAD, which channels a different animation standard, following a style called rubber hose animation. That means old-time facial expressions and character designs, simple yet clean movement that flows perfectly, and a great degree of nuance in every action. Seeing a boss's reactions and forms changing throughout a fight can be hilarious, and their exaggerated animations serve to warn you of impending attacks. Rage 2. Say what you will about the story and open world, but Rage 2 executes its action very well. Whether you're meleeing and knocking enemies into obstacles, ripping their armor apart with the shotgun, or sending them flying with the grab dart launcher, the animation is on point at every turn. This also extends to the enemies, as they note your presence and either tumble over themselves pursuing you or attempt to sidestep your shots. This doesn't even get into the larger foes that realistically lumber, their weight carrying impact with each step. EA UFC 3. EA Sports titles generally have good animation work, but EA Sports UFC 3 is arguably the best of the lot. Using real player motion tech, the title has over 5,000 animations to accurately depict every punch, kick, grapple, and transition that UFC is known for. The animation system also augments the gameplay with momentum now factoring into strikes, making feints and slips possible. God of War. Sony Santa Monica's God of War is a finely crafted game in pretty much every single way, but it's crazy to see the amount of effort placed into the animation. The facial expressions, combat animations, and movement are all incredibly well done, with one-take style cinematography adding to it all. However, among all of this is the Leviathan axe, the act of its recall and just how fluid it all looks. The development team spent a long time iterating on its animation, from the act of throwing it to how it would move when recalled, and even that satisfying little wiggle it has before wrenching free from something. It's all fairly subtle at first, but affects gameplay a great deal. Shadow of the Colossus Remake. Even back in the day, Shadow of the Colossus sported some incredible animation tech. Deformation Collision saw a Colossus collision mapped to its skin rather than an arbitrary shape. Pendulum physics-driven animation made Wander realistically flail back and forth when hanging onto a colossi as opposed to regular ragdolls. And then there were the AI-driven footsteps, where the colossi would orient their body to attack Wander in the best way possible. Couple this with the gorgeous textures and environments of the remake, and you get a stellar experience. Tekken 7. It's crazy to think that Bandai Namco has been using many of the same mocap animations for its Tekken series over the years, but such is the level of polish and fidelity that they're still stunning to witness, especially in Tekken 7. Whether it's Xiao Yu's quick movements and graceful flips, or Huarang's stances, or the sheer number of throw animations, Tekken 7 is still hard to top among 3D fighters. Resident Evil 2 2019. Last year's remake of Resident Evil 2 outperformed expectations in several ways, depicting our favorite characters in all of their glory while adhering to more realistic standards. The movement and overall feel of each character felt spot on, whether it was the realistic shooting or momentum while running away. but perhaps the various biohazards were the real stars. Whether it was Mr. X's uninterrupted strides, the creepy licker stalking about, or just the zombies themselves. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Naughty Dog's graphics and animation quality needs no introduction, and Uncharted 4: A Thief's End is pretty much the studio's benchmark, until The Last of Us Part 2 releases, that is. A lot of work went into facial animations and movements, but the physics simulation added to the gameplay is most interesting. Experimental at first, some polish helped the resulting animations flow naturally while still providing enough room for tweaks. All in all, whether it's the big set pieces or casually platforming on a stormy beach, Uncharted 4's animation is constantly on fire. Horizon Zero Dawn. Guerrilla Games' open-world epic has obviously put in a ton of work to bring Aloy and various other human NPCs to life, but it pales in comparison to the animation work on the machines. Bringing in a consultant for anatomy, the development team balanced the weight of each machine with their behavior to make them feel just right from a gameplay perspective. That's not accounting for the complex range of animations that each machine has to your presence, from neutral to curious and then cautious to combative. In terms of making Horizon's world feel alive, the machines are undoubtedly the stars of the show. NIER Automata. NIER Automata's animation work shines best in combat. Seeing 2B's fighting style change depending on the weapons she wields, going from acrobatic with a light sword to carrying momentum with each strike of a heavy sword and assuming a fighting pose with the bracers, is incredible. Then again, it's all in the little details as well, such as the transitions between thrown weapons, the various combos, and even the animations of stowing said weapons away. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Ori and the Blind Forest already looked very impressive, but Moon Studios raised its own bar in Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Going from 2D to 3D models, the entire philosophy behind Ori's movements was completely overhauled to make him more fluid. More traditional animation techniques are on display here, and it helps breathe life into both Ori's personality along with the modicum of creatures that inhabit his world. Star Citizen. Despite still not being fully released, Star Citizen still looks very impressive in its Alpha 3.9 state. The movement, whether it's in first-person mode or while flying, is polished well, with the effects of gravity and space influencing one's overall control. Given that Squadron 42 is on the horizon and boasts some award-winning talent and crazy good facial animations at work, Star Citizen will likely only improve in the years to come. Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2. Guilty Gear Xrd is perhaps the series' biggest shift in visual direction since it replaced the traditional 2D sprites with cel-shaded 3D models. The objective with its animation wasn't to usher in some new age, but to remain as faithful as possible to the older games. This meant removing frames to provide a more animated feel, swapping parts as opposed to scaling or deforming models, and much more. The results speak for themselves, and seeing Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2 in motion is simply sublime. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.